you just have to teach yourself.
Exactly.
And you have to know that there's motive.
Well, yeah. And the motive is we're in an epidemic of chronic disease. Like, forget COVID, a pandemic. We know that this is going to pass.
It's called $465 for a pharmaceutical drug, or $2,000 for a pharmaceutical drug. There's money motive going on. And the greatest decision that you can make is to be responsible for your own reality.
Exactly. Yeah. And to know that just because your doctor says your diet has nothing to do with your disease, just because your doctor says municipal tap water is great for you, just because your doctor says you're going to live with this chronic disease for the rest of your life.
Not true. It's a condition. I will tell you, autoimmune is a condition. It is not. We can all restore our health back to its original well-being.
Exactly.
Our natural well-being.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Eat Real to Heal podcast. I am your host, Nicolette and on today's show, we have a former bodybuilding champion, Steve Wiltshire. He is also way more than that. He is an amazing spiritual entrepreneurial coach. He is a health coach. He is a guru of sorts. And I don't use that word lightly, because this is someone who is absolutely been doing the work his whole entire life to connect with himself, to connect with others, to learn, to grow, and more importantly, to share the information for free. This is his philanthropic work that he does in the world, so that you can learn how to eat well, live well, really tap into your mindset and let that work for you, as opposed to so many of us, we are going through this world where our mind is saying one thing, but our behavior is doing another. And with the work that Steve does, he teaches you how to integrate that, so you come back to being you, so you can just keep doing more of you, because you are already perfect as you are. You are already fully present and there, but sometimes we just need to release the veil that is preventing us from living our most fullest, amazing, awesome, healthy life. And that is what Steve brings to the table, which is what I love. I also love that this podcast, we cover so many different topics. We go into parenting and how to see our child as our teacher. We go into connecting with Creator, so that you can slow down and listen to the messages, to everything that you already know, because all the information is contained within you. We tap into how Steve had a very rare autoimmune disorder that originated from serious gut complications that almost ruined his life, and how he went about and was able to heal himself entirely, so he can be of service to you. Because you know, when you are unhealthy, when you're in pain, when you are fatigued, when you don't have energy, you can't be of service to others. But Steve, instead of going down the rabbit hole of medication after medication and listening to what the doctor said, he said, no way. And instead, he went out there and found the answers that worked for him, and he shares that with you. So Steve has built a fitness, health, and mindset and made that a priority for the last 3 decades. So you're getting over 30 years of knowledge in this podcast. And shortly after Steve won the Mr. Oregon Bodybuilding Championship, that is when Steve developed his autoimmune disorder. And so in this podcast, you're going to learn all about everything he did to reverse his condition. And these are things that you can start doing today. So let's dive into the show with Steve and learn all of the beautiful health, mindset, physical, spiritual, body, everything that Steve learned, so you can realize optimum health starting now. And before we go into that, I just want to let you know that 2022 is upon us. We are coming up on our 100th podcast, which is very exciting. So please let us know if you have people in your world that have a voice, that want to share their story of using food as medicine to heal themselves. Not everybody wants to share their story because they're still shrouded in the shame and the guilt of having the illness in the first place. But what I want to let you know is that their story is so important. It's so important for other people to learn from what got them into that position in the first place, how they got out of it, how they use food as medicine or anything else as medicine to heal. Anything that wasn't the drugs and the surgery, because we know those are not working. They're not helping to even put a dent in this chronic disease epidemic. So if you know somebody who wants to share their story, and maybe it's you, know that we will dive into your story with such love and grace to allow other people to learn from you. So please write to us and tell us who that person is. Also, if there's a topic that you want us to cover, write to us at info@richerhealth.ca and let us know, because we have such a long queue of amazing experts. And if there's somebody that we're missing, we want to reach out to them and bring us onto our show as well for you. And lastly, 2022, you're going to see incredible programs coming out. They are new and improved from all the things that we've been offering over the last 15 years. So definitely head over to our website at greenmustache.com, at nicoletterichet.com, at info or at richerhealth.ca, because you definitely want to get onto the wait list for some of these programs that are going to be happening in the new year. So without further ado, let's dive into this podcast with Steve and let him wow you with all of the beautiful gifts that he has to offer. See you at the end. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Eat Real to Heal podcast. I am so excited. It is a gorgeous day outside here on the West Coast of North America. I'm tuning in from Canada and from British Columbia. And we have Steve Q. Wiltshire on our podcast today, who's going to blow your mind with all the information. Thank you, Steve, for being here all the way from Portland, Oregon.
6 hours away from you.
Yes, not far at all. You and I
got my coaching certification on Robson Street. Kept going back. I didn't go to any location. I loved it so much.
Oh, I know Robson is definitely, it's got a draw in. It's just, there's just so much happening. It's so exciting, and it's also easy to navigate.
My grandmother never became an American. She moved here, but never became an American.
So is she from Canada?
Yes, she is.
Oh, nice. Nice. Did you spend a lot of time up here?
Yes, my aunts up in, a lot of my relatives up in Vancouver, BC, actually. Yeah.
Exciting, exciting. And is your grandmother still around?
No, but my most influential person in my life growing up. Wow. Thank you. Every time I hear Smile from Nat King Cole or Natalie Cole, I think of her. She was such a gift. I was a fortunate young man to be tucked under her wing.
Wow, that is beautiful. And that really resonates.
Thank you for that. Wow.
Yeah, and my grandmother too. And we have a documentary coming out called The Food of Our Ancestors, which is all about, doesn't matter what culture you're from, it's just tuning into who your ancestors were and checking out what they ate. So if they're not alive, you might have to go on, YouTube and, Google and find out. But if they are alive, it's to go ask them, hey, what kind of foods did you eat and how did you prepare them? And if they are old enough, they will tell you that they ate pretty clean, simple foods, no refined products, all of that. What about your grandmother? Did she have an influence on you on the food side?
Right? Like, we walked for our food, right? We walked to our food. We didn't, we either got fruit or we ended up getting vegetation, or right? Like I love where you're going with this. Yeah, she always ate clean. Yeah, it was all about her garden. Yeah, wow.
Exactly. People had gardens. Yeah, people had gardens. So Steve, you have a really interesting story. And when, I was reading about you, and, interesting in the sense that you did something which a lot of people don't do. You were able to defy the medical system. You were able to defy what the medical system says is science around autoimmune disorders. You were able to completely heal yourself. But before we dive into your personal story, which I love that you talked about your grandmother's garden and that you were influenced by that. But can we go back way before the autoimmune disorder, because I think it's important for people to understand that diseases don't come out of thin air. So what was happening in your life and in your world before your diagnosis that contributed to the development of your autoimmune disorder? And if you can get specific with the details of that, that would be
Good
awesome.
question. That's a really good question. Getting me to think. I would say I became this guy that was always about hiring experts, financial experts. I've always worked with coaches, and I was 44 and I decided, I had friends saying, you got to do a fitness show. Like they would always say, people would come up to me at a gym and just say, are you doing a fitness show? No. I mean, truth be known, I did it for mindset. I've always dealt with anxiety. And so I would run, I would sauna, I would, work out. And that was kind of my thing. And so I decided to do this fitness show. And, the thought of it, with all my travel and working with more clients than I probably should be working with, and just my quest to help people get what they want. It's like my joy. I loved helping people get what they want. And I thought, I'm going to be 45. I think I'm going to do this. I'm just going to really challenge myself to do it. So I ended up hiring these experts, naturopath and trainer and poser. And I just followed their routine. I followed exactly what they had planned for me. $800 a month in supplements. I had no idea there were chemicals in supplements. I mean, meat bad. Like I didn't know 92% of the supplements on the market had chemicals. I didn't know most of them were owned by a pharmaceutical drug with a different name. I didn't know keto was this radical plan, a radical meal plan that could potentially, erupt or we'll say challenge your kidneys and your liver and even your thyroid, your gallbladder, right? I didn't know any of that. So I had this show, did 2 shows. It was successful. I won both of them, Mr. Oregon. I didn't plan on it. In fact, it was one of the most, I realized, because I've been an entrepreneur since I've been 17, that it was the only time in my life that I had done something that no one had control over. I teach values. I'm a mindset coach. And I kept thinking, why do I feel so happy? Because no one's decision but mine, whether I worked out or whether I got on a cardio machine or whether I practiced posing or meditated. And I had this elevated state of energy. I wish I would have done it differently than how I did it back then, meaning I continued on this plan for 2 years and continued taking these supplements. I liked how I felt. I liked how I looked. And then all of a sudden one day, my gut just completely quit. I was out having vegan food with my son and I was scared. I stood up and I go, I don't know what's happening to my stomach. And my son, being 12 at the time, he's like, dude, what happened to your abs? Dad, man, your stomach's so big. And I go, Quinn, I think I might need to go into emergency. And
okay, so hold on 1 second. So let's go back for people to understand. So you're a bodybuilder. You decide to do a couple shows and train for your first show. And so you're following what the experts are saying is the supplements that you take, probably how much you drink, what you eat. So you're following keto. You're doing it because the experts are doing it. And this is what they say is right. And then
steroid-free show too.
Steroid,
like all natural show. But so I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. All
okay,
natural.
so it is like pretty natural. And keto, is this meat-based keto versus plant-based keto?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So you're doing a
back
plant.
then there was no keto. There was
Right.
no such thing as keto, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 2007 is
Okay, so super minimal carbs, right? And super high protein and fat, right? Okay, and you're getting strong and big.
Mhm.
And so on the outside, you're looking amazing, like you win these competitions,
Yeah,
but then on the inside, you're falling apart.
you just said it. You
Yeah.
nailed it.
Okay. So what did you do when you're sitting there with your son eating and your belly's like
Oh, 2 years,
abs are disappearing,
two
belly's
years,
bloating?
about 2 years later, and I'm just every time I eat there on after, I'm miserable. And so I go to the doctor and I have blood work done, and my tests come back beyond normal.
Yeah.
And I'm like scared. I don't know what's the matter with me. And then I go to Lynn, who had been diagnosed. Excuse me, Lynn is my partner with Body Temple and my business partner with Lifeline Coaching Education. That's my entrepreneur brand. And so she had been on this 2-year journey of healing herself from third stage breast cancer, no chemo, no radiation. Um, and she had already been down this path. And so this is, about 3 weeks later, and I'm like, I need help. And she's like, well, this is what you need to do. And she started to lead me to, I call them healers, or disguised as naturopaths, or disguised as acupuncturists. I mean, she set me up with these incredible healers. And so I started on this journey. I started doing a lot of colonics because I felt so terrible. Every fourth day I would be doing colonics. And it took me about 2 years to heal, actually 18 months to be exact. And that was the third healer that really helped me out, that really made this significant difference. But I would say that 70% was about my whole concept around food and following these plans. I'm a guy that hires an expert and just does what they tell me to do. And then the other part of that 70% was supplementation. What I didn't know, and I feel like I'm very advanced in gut health. 30% that I will own was the anxiety. Anxiety and depression really can impact the gut. I had a lot of stress. My whole concept was whatever it takes, limited sleep, just, rocking and rolling life. And then when I started to even study, I love youth. It's one of my passions. That children, everybody listening, please hear me. When a child says, Mommy, my stomach hurts, often it's depression or anxiety. There are emotions that they don't understand how to deal with. So I didn't have depression, but I had a lot of anxiety. And so that all contributed to this gut issue that I was dealing with that took me about 18 months to completely heal.
Wow. And I love that you address that, because I come at it from the opposite side. So when I have clients that have a high amount of anxiety and stress and depression, and even they're suicidal, like this is where they've arrived at, they just like, I've tried everything. I don't know what to do. The medications make me feel terrible. I don't know. I've tried all the diets and cleanses. I've tried therapy and psychotherapy and, absolutely everything. And they just don't know what to do. What we do is we start with their gut. So we can't even shift the stress in their life. Like some of these clients have been in a bedroom for a year suffering from an ongoing panic attack. Okay. Because their anxiety got to that place. So we start with the gut, because once we fortify the gut by microbiome with insoluble plant-based fiber,
Hallelujah.
all of a sudden they're creating 95% of their dopamine and serotonin that gets taken up by the brain, and then their entire nervous system just goes woof and calms down for the first time, despite the high levels of stress. So I love, though,
I'm so excited right now listening to you. Like, I feel like my 23-year-old son, I want to go, dude, you're on it. Like, wow.
Yes.
People don't understand the dopamine thing, the serotonin thing. Like that hormone will set you up with a memory, that elevated joy with something that you took that you decided is no longer good for you. When you make that decision to change it, a habit is when the body becomes the mind.
Yeah. And this is the part that you said, because you're saying, and it's so important for parents to realize that for a lot of people, they could have a really healthy diet. but they still have the gut health issues because the mind is just, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, and kids feel this, especially, and I love that you brought that up. Kids feel everything, and we cannot discount the fact that they are under a lot of stress in this current day and age. And it's so important to take their gut health issues, seriously, because it can get worse, and it will get worse if we're not addressing the mind and the external stressors as well as internal stressors like food and things like that.
You are wildly awesome at what you do. Like, I can't believe my mind is like so, my whole energy is so engaged with what you're saying, and like I'm having thoughts that I don't normally have. Like, kids that are sensitive are most likely empaths.
Mm-hmm.
And these empaths are here to make a difference. They're some of the best authors. Some of the most introverted people have written some of the most profound messages that have impacted millions and millions of people. And, I had an incredible mother that was a whatever it took. I mean, she was like, if you were sick, you went to school. Like, she's like, honey, you're just going to go. I'm going to drop you off. Like, you're going to run the race. You're going to get past this, right? She is a whatever it takes, very, very successful. And even when I started, like, I have not thought of this. I don't know that I ever connected the dot. You helped me connect the dot. I went, years with everything that I put in my body was at about a 9.8. But when I would get anxiety, I would start to get bloated. It made no sense. Like, you're helping me register, and your listeners, this is your place to be. Like, right here, I'm going to tell you right now, like, following podcasts that have essential information, like I can tell in this, like, I can't believe what you're pulling out of me. I don't know that I always related at that time. I wasn't way into my work, that it was my anxiety that I needed. It's all what has become my best attribute or environment for elevating my state is my morning miracle. Yeah. Nobody gets my time in my morning but me and my creator. And it's
we're going to dive into what that is, because I bet you that is a golden nugget that people will take away from this show. And the morning miracle is so important. Like, Deepak Chopra touches on that in the 7 spiritual laws of success. It's whatever whatever you do in the morning is what sets you up for the rest of your day. So I want to hang on to that for 1 second, but let's just go back to, your mom and this whatever it takes attitude, which is an awesome attitude. It's the survival attitude. It is the let's just get it done, and which is so good, and it serves in so many ways. But when it's our young children that also start adopting that whatever it takes attitude, like, how do you see that? Do you still have that, or what have you learned to do with?
I am awestruck by this conversation. I feel like I'm in the middle of therapy. Like, that is that skill that you have about tapping in and tuning in. Like, I am, first of all, my heart is there, knowing my mom didn't know anything different. It was how she was raised, right? And she's 83 years old now. But my son, his life is completely different, and both of his parents did the work, right? We're both coaches. And so we were always about being curious, tapping in, listening. When I think about his ability to manifest through the law of least effort, being just who he is, like, people fall in love with him. He's just a simple, I'll say, in the moment kind of guy. Like, I learned that in order for you to manifest and be successful, you had to work hard, you had to sacrifice, you had to suffer. And that's just not how he's been raised. It's all law of attraction. And for those of you that are even very much in your faith, it's the scripture. It's bring your tithes to the storehouse, bring a portion of yourself, offer freely, prove me now. And this says, the Lord, if I want to open up the windows of heaven, pour upon you such a blessing that even you will not contain it. He is just in this state of acceptance in everything that he does. And and would just say that we have to listen to our children. We are curious with them. We touch them. We allow them to help us understand how they're feeling. Curiosity to me is the greatest gift in leadership.
Yeah. And I think that just looking at our kids' behaviors and the way our kids are responding to the world is really an important thing that as parents we need to be doing. I have 3 young girls, and it's not to say, it's not to take on blame or shame for anything that might be they're struggling with, but they are a reflection. They're holding up a mirror to our lives. So are we putting a lot of stressors on them? Are we maybe not feeding them the right foods? Are we not allowing them to just be who they are innately designed to be, so that they can really follow the law of least effort and just be themselves, and allow the world to also just give them what they need to respond to them, and to just, we can all make our lives easier, but our kids are there holding up our mirror to ourselves. So here was your kid holding up a mirror to you and saying, Dad, your muscles, your abs are gone. What the heck is happening? And so let's go back to that, because that's a really important part that I want to get into the morning miracle afterwards.
Yeah,
but
do it.
What did you do at this point when you're just feeling terrible, like where you, and your blood work's coming back normal? Which blood work always comes back normal, people. Blood work does not indicate.
We're manifesting. It just means we're manifesting something, and there's grace.
Yes.
There's time to shift that, to find the Nickies that have those programs in place to help us make those changes before we manifest it. I do want to circle back and just say what you talked about with children and the curiosity. Like, ironically, I had some local clients over for dinner last night, and I created a complete vegan meal. It was over the top. And we started talking about children. And one of them is a professor of a college. And she's a community college, and she was able to not get vaccinated. And the conversations that we were having, the whole she, he, came up, and then we started to talk about the all of this content that children are, the influence they're under, and just to stay curious with them, like, what do you think about it? Because what I've noticed about my entrepreneur brand, and you are pulling that out of me, is that I could see when a client was under fear, like these rock star clients that are rocking life, and when their children makes the move, there's fear there. Well, after a while of coaching a couple, you realize that what's underneath it is they think that move that their kid's going to make is going to affect them. So all of a sudden, this resourceful, resilient client that's trying to manipulate their child or trying to get them to think a certain way, because they know their decision's going to affect them, and then to see different perspectives of that, they're our future. Staying curious. They have to go through that experience.
Totally. And it's hard, right? Because we've never been under so much pressures as parents to raise these Pinterest perfect children that, we're perfect parents baking the Pinterest perfect cookies, that are gluten-free and vegan and all of these, or whatever it is, keto cookies for our kids.
Right.
And, never turns out the way Pinterest says. And, there's 10 million parenting books, and people are judging now more than ever before. And then you layer COVID on top of it, and there's just extra layers of judgment. It's the amount of anxiety on parents, or pressure on parents, it's at an utmost. Whereas before, in the 1940s, you just slapped the neighbor's kid if they did something and nobody questioned it. But now we're and that's not okay. We don't ever want to go there. But I feel like we're in a place where it's just the lens is on us 24/7. And we're forgetting, though, that we are these beautiful souls already. We are perfectly born into the world, and we do not have to create perfect children because they are perfect already. We do not need to be perfect parents because we are perfect already. And we're going to make mistakes, and our kids are going to make mistakes. We just need to be kind to each other, and we just need to like love each other, and we just need to stop judging. And we also just need to jump in and speak our truth and support when things aren't going well for ourselves, our kids, or maybe our neighbors or our friends. But we just can't be doing it the way we're doing it.
I want to throw out, like, hear what Nikki's saying, everyone. In all of that, environments convert, or environments create transformation. Environments make change. So like when she was sharing that, and my whole body was filled with emotion and literally had goosebumps, I was thinking of a curriculum I have in my entrepreneur brand called Choice Management, taking charge of your health, body, mindset. And I talk about the difference between synthetic recreation and natural recreation, and what happens when we're able to get out into nature, or even just an environment that we create in our home, especially with children, where we're away from network, way away from the Hollywood version, the comparing, the measuring, the over, we'll say, blowing our circuitry. Like, it just, there's so much circuitry. Children need that. And we need that, as parents, like, to create that. And it's the same thing with health. And that's where you're going with the miracle morning, or the morning ritual that we create, right? I just happen to call it my miracle morning ritual, right? That environment creates memory of something that we have organized in design. Because what is heaven? It's esoteric. What is vision? It's esoteric. It's untouchable. It's this, vision is the impulse pulling us to distinguish who and what we are. It's the divine adventure into self-discovery, where our greatest attributes are activated. But intention is worldly. Intention is a plan, So I would describe Nikki as a very esoteric, well-connected, multi-sensory human being. But to see the structure that she's created for clients and members and just people that she wants to help, she's got all this structure, and we have to have that structure if we want a marriage to thrive, or we want a relationship to thrive, or we want our health to thrive. And then her tipping point is the mindset. There's times that I'm actually literally talking to my body and pushing the garage door open at 11 o'clock saying, we're going to go to the gym. I know you don't want to go, you're tired, but we're going to feel like we had a hangover, and I don't drink. And tomorrow, so we're going to go to the gym, and we're just going to do a little bit of cardio. We're going to stretch. We're going to listen to our favorite music, and maybe get a little bit of weights in, but we're going to get in the sauna for 20 minutes. And we're going to come home, and you're going to sleep so well. Because I know people wait to feel good and take action instead of take action and feel good.
Oh yeah. And I love that you brought that up. This podcast is going in so many directions that I didn't realize it was going to go in. I love it.
Back, right?
Right. No, this is good. And that's exactly what happened to me yesterday, because as most of my listeners know, I'm running and cycling across Canada in 2023 to work with Indigenous communities and communities of people of color to really uncover what are the barriers to accessing clean, real food. And yesterday was my first day getting back to training after taking a couple of recovery months off because I did a tour in the summer. And of course, I choose yesterday to be the day I wake up with my period. It's been
of course, right?
Of course, I just came in super late the night before
Whatever.
from speaking at a big event. And I wanted to say no way, but I had to do exactly what you just said. I was like, Nikki, you're just going to go there and you're just going to show up at the gym. Okay. You don't even have to lift the weights. Just choose the light weights. And you know what? Just pretend to do squats. Don't even do the whole squats. But of course, it was just getting dressed, getting in the car, getting there. And of course, what happened? I had the best workout of my life, was there for 2.5 hours. Wow. And feel amazing today. So I love what you just said. And it's true that the mindset has to be first. and foremost, but sometimes the action actually you just got to do it. And then the mind will follow, the body will follow, everything. So it's, no,
This is
that's
my
really.
favorite interview that I've had so far. Wow. Like, I want everybody to hear what you said
I'm
about
supposed to be interviewing
showing up.
you. I want everybody to hear what you're saying.
Did you hear that, everybody? She said to show up. Like, self-judgment is so, it's a sin. Like, just to show up, when you decide you're ready for change, you just start to show up. And this is where, when I think about the Miracle Morning Ritual, a lot of it is affirmations around my 4 favorite areas: health, relationships, faith, career, purpose. And I read those affirmations. And when I have an inner critic that starts to capture my mind, I don't often notice it because, you and I are going through life, we're doing our thing, and it's the body, it's the emotion. You're like, what thoughts am I having that are recurring? Why am I feeling that way? When you can slow down and you realize there's a judgment that you're placing, or a limiting belief that you have to find the words for. And then you're able to go to that data that you have, that you might read during the morning, and say, you know what? Okay, one of my favorites is, I'm going to enjoy my life no matter what.
Ooh,
When life isn't going well, or when I feel fear about something, good things are always happening to me. Or I happen to have like really high standards. I have an incredible team. They've been with me for a long time. And there was a time where I just wasn't always, I'll say, showing my gratitude. And this is one of my favorite: people matter more than things. You need to let this go, Wiltshire. This, people matter more than things. You made mistakes, let it go, right? But that Miracle Morning, basically what I loved about what you said is showing up.
So let's help people show up for themselves in the morning, first thing. Can we dive into what the morning miracle is?
Sure, absolutely. Well, this, and going back to what I interrupted 3 times, right? Talking about this complication that I had, this gut complication. The third part of this process that we take people through is to shift poor habits to ideal habits and notice your triggers. Because if education was everything, everybody would be successful. And so what is it about people that are able to get what they want? And you know these people, you aspire, you're either jealous of them or you aspire what they have. One's healthy and one's not. You want to get to a point where you start to look at people and you notice the reason you might feel a little bit of envy is you like what they have, and you're coded for it. Spirit wants that for you. It's part of your divine journey. You see it, so you know it. You just haven't yet experienced it. So that's the blessing in all of that. Well, the Miracle Morning Ritual is this time that you make decisions about intentions that you want in your life. And the 4 that are common among most human beings are our health, physical, right? Spiritual, relational, and professional. I just said it a little bit different than what I just said. And so when you're going through life, often people judge contrast. Contrast is wanted and unwanted conditions. And contrast is a good thing because you know what you don't want. So you turn the coin over and you ask yourself, what do I want? If it could be different, what would I want? You start to self-coach. I teach people how to coach themselves. And you start to notice, like just what Nikki's doing. And so that's why, like, I'm having these experiences where she's pulling these things out of me. I'm like, this is crazy. I have not had that thought. Wow, no wonder I felt that way. I wasn't at that advanced state. So, for example, when I knew I couldn't eat what I used to, I started this journey of only putting ideal food in my body.
So can I ask about that? Because I know for a lot of people who are listening, like it's the first time that they're hearing about using food as
Okay.
medicine. And, and a lot of people, we think that they just make and there's people who watch Forks Over Knives and that's it, they're vegan. That's it. They don't even question it. They just go. But truly, we know that they didn't just watch Forks Over Knives. There was probably a lot of interactions and experiences where it was just like little seeds being planted. So for you, was it um was it a leap? Like, did you have any limiting feelings like, I don't want to do it? Were you sabotaging
Oh,
yourself
first
in
was
any way?
12 weeks of grapefruit. I didn't like that was the first person I hired. Like it was 12 weeks of grapefruit and
Just
homemade
grapefruit?
minestrone soup. That was it. And I'm 225, like 6% body fat, buffed. And I'm like, wow, like that's was my first experience with realizing my ego cared more about what I looked like instead of how I felt. And it
And
was
did you
like,
feel good
okay,
on the 12 weeks of grapefruit and minestrone soup?
I did. I
Oh.
did. I went from, about 220 pounds to 170. I
And
lost.
was this through the Hippocrates Institute?
No.
No. Okay, so you haven't even arrived at the Hippocrates Institute yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I ended up, I started to get acclimated with it, was not. So that was Lynn,
Okay.
already going down this journey, and it's about 3 weeks into it. And so I hired Dr. Kim. And so he understands it and he's going to take me through this,
Yeah.
healing my gut process. But circling back and hearing what you said to your audience, that um, we need an ideal plan, right? Like, and sometimes it's a journey. And one of my affirmations that I read every day is, I'm going to enjoy the journey and stay in the process.
Nice.
Because what I want all of you to hear is that there's not one ideal journey for everybody. We can get to 10 several different ways, 3 threes and a 1, 2 5s, 5 2s. And so when you find experts that are open to customizing for you,
Yeah.
but will also on your behalf pull the trump card and say, not a good decision. You need to go narrow. Here's what you can work with. Like, I have people that actually cannot drink a green smoothie, a
Yeah.
completely help grade. They just can't.
Exactly.
They throw up, they gag, they just can't do it. Right. So we have to start with an ideal wellness plan. But even in that journey, we're going to notice that we're going to have these triggers. And so when I started down this path and got to a point where I was comfortable, and like I'm talking 18 months into it and have healed myself, I might sometimes revert back to what I wanted to eat. And then the frustration of letting myself down, feeling the bloating, the
Yeah.
fear of it coming back, helped me have contrast. So
Yeah.
whether it's alcohol that you're dealing with, or motivation, or some part of your meal plan, you've got to be patient because it's a puzzle that you're solving as
Yeah.
you go down this journey, and be plugged into an ideal community. I had I've never had an alcohol problem, but I like it.
Mhm.
I don't drink like I used to at all. But it was, for me, going out, being around people, it was something that I had done since I had been young. And I literally realized I could not do it anymore. And I wrote this affirmation: I don't hang out with friends in environment that promote alcohol.
Mm.
Once I made that decision, I was able to go months without drinking and then get back into environments where I could listen to music and be around people, and they were all drinking.
Yeah.
But up until that point, because mindset's really what you're after. You're after getting in this state of mind.
Yeah.
And strategy is what creates that eliminates the story in your mind, and you're able to get that state where you become unstoppable.
Well, I like what you brought up about the alcohol, because for anybody who thinks that they have no alcohol addiction, or that they can just give up alcohol easily, or that, it doesn't have control over them. And it highlights, it's a really interesting journey, because I gave up alcohol for 2 years, and I thought it would be easy because I didn't even really drink. And I immediately found actually that it was the hardest thing for me to do. And I'm like, I can change my diet,
So
no problem.
socially acceptable.
It was not about the alcohol. It was about wanting to just kind of fit in. It was about wanting to be in the same state as other people, even though I didn't value being in that state through alcohol. It was about, actually, it's just easier to say yes than it is to say no. It was about not like, it was about so many things that actually it was just about me not sticking to my values. And why am I not sticking to my values? So it brings up so much. And it was also, I realized, a drug, because the only time I wanted to have it was when I was like, I'm just done. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm just like, I'm going to have it because I was just too tired. And that in itself brought up a lot of stuff too. It's like, why am I not doing something else that's healthy versus giving into the alcohol? And this is coming from someone who's not a drinker, and it was the hardest thing to do. It actually had me looking for alcohol at like 11 in the morning, which I had never done that before. But again, it was not about the alcohol. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
So much that dopamine can play a part of that. And then also the environment where we're around people and the memory of that, like it becomes this thing. There is a great ebook that I would love to send those of you that know you don't belong in 12-step. You've made the decision, I'm ready to quit, or I'm ready to not drink as often. And you want to understand the physiology around that process and how the hormones play a part of it. And it's called Stop Over Drinking. I have this ebook that I can send you from Rick Costello. It's like the most incredible process of understanding how the body can overtake the mind.
Yeah.
It's just a social acceptance. It's just like the social thing that we've dealt with for years that I'm not seeing in millennials, or that younger generation. It's more about getting high for them, right? It's pretty interesting. It's that, and a lot of them they participate fine in life, right? But there's this, really, when we talk about it, we're operating from one of two states: powerless or powerful. Exactly. And it's only defined by you. Now, that word can seem kind of weird right now with all the power that we're seeing in our political arena and all this manipulation. But power means I love how I think. I love the decisions I make. I love how I'm treating this person. I love that I'm in this challenge with this human being that's judging me, and I still love how I'm being with them. You love the decisions you're making. And so when we start to notice, like Nikki brought up and I brought up, that I'm just ready to stop drinking, and I would show up at an environment and make that decision, and then all of a sudden I'm having 2 drinks and I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and leaving feeling like, damn, dude, what's up with you? Why are you doing this? This is where mindset comes in, because mindset is that ability to develop pattern of thought that supports an ideal outcome that you want. And that's when you have to notice those triggers. And it's just like your body and mind trained your brain to want this thing. You are the only one that can untrain your brain to not want this thing. But judging yourself is like allowing that inner critic to come back in the back door. Yeah. You got to stay in process. Yeah. You got to love yourself through it. You got to continually forgive yourself and recommit. But most often, we're still talking about environments. In fact, we have this whole entire program for you. It's a complimentary gift called Body Temple. Here you go. This is what I have one tattoo on my forearm called Body Temple that I did right at the day that I knew I was healed. And so it's called bodytemplekickstart.com.
Oh, nice. So we're going to definitely drive people there, because it's really important for healing is not an isolated situation. It's like when people try to heal one organ in the body, you can't do that. You got to heal the entire being, the entire organism. But it's the same too when you want to start that healing process. If you think you can leave your mind out of it and just address the physical, good luck, my friend. Or if you think
So
you can
true.
just focus on the visual and definitely, a lot of people think that manifesting comes from simply creating a vision board, but no. There's actions that need to follow every day as well. It's not just going to come, but it's a great place to start. And so it's that merging of the physical and the mind. And yes, mindset is going to be first and foremost, but there's actions every day. So I love this. And we're going to share this with everybody. Where I do want to come back to, just to bring people in, because I'm totally not clear on how you ended up being so were you diagnosed officially with an autoimmune?
Yeah, gosh, I'm so into this. It's so funny because I was having a conversation with Nicole before this, telling her that I sent her a couple emails and we were discussing, I've held, thousands of seminars, and I have this process of staying very structured and then leading people to material, but I coach. And so when I notice that people want something, the majority, that's where my creativity starts to show up. Well, so I wasn't, these tests came back that my blood work looked great, right? My lab work. And then I ended up going to this naturopath and more extensive blood work, and I had celiacs, which basically meant I had this overgrown case of candida and bad bacteria. And as I thought it wasn't going to be that complicated of a process, but it was literally 18 months. And when I say going on your own journey, part of that included my partner, Lynn, and the other part was very much spiritual for me, realizing, and I think often what we're going through to get to the other side is often what we're here to teach.
100%. Yes. Yeah. And so when you went through this process, because I know you said you started off with, because I know people, I could just hear the audience being like, but what did he do? What did he do? And, people like a plan. So when you started this, you started doing, did the colonics help?
So I started growing my own sprouts. Produce was my friend. I started drinking. I think a lot of people really don't understand all the toxins in water. I mean, there's fluoride in your water. There is, if you are drinking tap water or even anything with plastic in it. I mean, water is so important for you to understand. There's chemicals and prescriptions, drugs in water, like tap water. You want a high-end water source.
Yeah.
It's so important. And those of you that might be on a budget, you could go to a Whole Foods or a New Seasons or a Natural Grocers or a health store that has a high-end water machine, almost pH or close to that, or if that, and you can actually start to just buy your water that way, which is even better than buying water in plastic bottles. We can go down to plastic. Even fish, right? Like when you start to look at all these case studies, there are thousands of chemicals in salmon, in halibut. Like, it's crazy. You have to have a really great fish source. But I will tell you my secret that I don't know that it was really taught to me, except for that last healer in Dallas. Man, I didn't want to spend any more money. And I remember praying for an answer. And I called to book this event because I had this retreat in Vegas with hundreds of, like 800 leaders coming in, the Dara, thousands of dollars. I was so sick. And I was like, dear God, help me get through this. And I wanted to feel better. And I was still on this journey. And I called to book this appointment. And they only had May 1st open. and I'm a strategic guy. Like that's like my gift is strategy. And the gatekeeper says, "Oh, that's the doctor's birthday." It's all the sign that I needed. And then when I heard that, I was like, all right, he's got to be somewhat wired to like me. But he basically said, you need to constantly detox the rest of your life. I'm in an infrared sauna 5 days a week. I'm at Bikram yoga 2 days a week. It has it releases toxins. My skin is incredible. It's a meditated time. It's diminished my anxiety. And even those of you that don't maybe have access to buy an infrared sauna, in fact, I'm going to send you a link to this new sauna that is so inexpensive. And the science behind this sauna is like over the top. You don't even have your head open. I mean, it's just like this little piece of equipment that you get in and it heats up right away. It's like over the top. I got to send this to you. It's just like I'm sending my clients to this because it's very reasonable. And with COVID, a lot of clients are just not open to going in sauna. But I'm just going to say, I mean, the heat alone, I can't say I'm an expert at this, but good luck catching that in 150 degree or 190 degree sauna. It's just not probably going to happen. I'm just going to put it out there. So
with this, okay, so hold on, let's go back a little bit because you did a lot of things, right? And people are probably going, but what is it? So, but I love this because you looked at nutrification. So you started putting like good produce into your body. Definitely super important. So food becomes your medicine.
My own sprouts.
Growing your own sprouts. You are nutrifying. And what's that?
Wheatgrass.
Okay, wheatgrass.
It's so easy to do. Like you guys have no idea. It's so easy.
So cheap, people.
Sunflower sprouts, pea sprouts. Drinking my food, like my green smoothie. I'm going to tell you right now, you get the Kickstart Detox Plan. It's complimentary. Yeah. You have access to all of that. Like it's all in writing, the vegan recipes, the detoxing plan, and then there's a community online that will lead you to. When you register for that, you'll be invited to join a Facebook community called Body Temple. And in the file section is all of we're a philanthropic movement. I can't believe how popular this document is. How to diminish toxins and constantly detox your body.
And this part too, that's the part when I want to lead people to. So everybody's looking for this one hit, one pill wonder, and it doesn't work that way. Like you got to know that Steve, like literally is treating his body like a temple. It's one temple. It's not a series of multiple tiny temples. It's one temple. And so you've got the food, you cleaned up your water. That's the same thing we do. We tell our clients, first thing you got to ditch is the municipal tap water. That stuff is shit. Okay. It causes disease. And so you clean up your water. Okay. Then you clean up your mind as well, simultaneously.
Chemical-free supplements. I couldn't find a gut product that was chemical-free. And I went to Formulator and had it designed. And the one that I took that was almost chemical-free, I'm getting ready to trial them at the airport. I will never forget this. I'm like they're going to pick me up in Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh. And I am like going through security and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to shit my pants. I couldn't believe it. I had no control. I just like left my luggage, ran to the bathroom, miserable on the way there. The formulation that I created is just like maintenance. I mean, how do I say it? I'm kind of bottom line guy. There's nothing on the end of my tissue, but there's a ton in the toilet. Like that was nothing I ever thought that I would see after this. Like you need to be in chemical-free products. My skincare is completely chemical-free. Everything that I put on my body, like which is,
and and just so people understand, like you had gone through a few years of training and taking
so much
stuff that wasn't healthy, and so a lot of people will think, well, he had to detox, but I don't, because I wasn't a bodybuilder taking all of this stuff and not questioning it.
It will catch up. Age, it's just age. It's part of it. It's just age, guys. Like, I see it all around me now. When I travel all the time, I can see how people walk.
Yeah.
They're way younger than I am, and they're not mobile. They
Yeah.
walk like they like their body is not all in alignment, all their ligaments, right? They're just you got to constantly detox because it's in the air.
Yeah.
It's
It's in the
it's
food
in
we
our
eat, the
environment. It's
water.
chemicals in your household.
Yeah.
I don't have any chemicals. There's a company called Norwix. I know many of you probably
Yeah.
have heard of it.
Love it.
That it's a simple way to detox. Like I didn't even think of that, when my son had allergies and we tried everything. And when we eliminated all the household products, like there's something like crazy 8,000 chemicals in our households. And you eliminate that, your kids even.
Yeah, they're thriving because they're kids too. They're so much closer to the ground. So if you're mopping your
Yeah.
floor with, chemicals, they're like crawling on it. They're putting it in their mouth. They're licking walls.
Yeah.
They're doing all of that, and then it becomes airborne as well when it dries. So then everybody's breathing it in. So I love this. So you're not
And
only
you young
detoxing your
folks, you think it like hey, when you got a brand new car, you can drive the heck out of it for a while.
yeah. Yeah, it's detoxing. So you got to detox your environment and detox your body, which is amazing. So where does the Hippocrates Institute come into all of this?
Well, Lynn had been through the Hippocrates
Yeah.
Health Institute. And so she led me to these experts, and I was kind of slow to the punch. I started, sprouting, and then I started doing the wheatgrass and the colonics, and there were she was trying to coach me around this whole process. And then when it finally got to a point where I just needed to completely follow suit. In fact, we have an ebook called Toxic Chemicals to Avoid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we nailed it. Like
Yeah.
it took a while to create this ebook. And even a shopping guide. We created the Body Temple shopping guide, teaching people how to take these recipes and where to actually find them, even products you can find online. But our best piece of work was the Kickstart Detox Manual and how to look for water source. And I think people need guidance. And so I might sound like I'm a little bit all over the board, but we do have those resources for you, definitely have those resources for you. But in all of that, yeah, it took me a while to get that pattern down.
Mm-hmm.
And I love everything that I eat. You get to a point where you start to realize that your body is just so absorbs great food, and you don't have to sacrifice taste. That's what I think is interesting. People don't realize, there are 68 different names for sugar.
I know.
And these barcodes with crazy number around, I don't know that I have it memorized, it's in my notes, of sweeteners that have these toxins. There's actually desserts that you can create that are these natural sweeteners, like they're phenomenal. And essential oils. Would you ever think essential oils, you can actually make like a chocolate mousse with avocado and essential oils. Like you just have to teach yourself.
Exactly.
And you have to know that there's motive.
Well, yeah. And the motive is we're in an epidemic of chronic disease. Like forget COVID, a pandemic. We know that this is going to pass.
Called $465 for a pharmaceutical drug, or $2,000 for a pharmaceutical drug. There's money motive going on. And the greatest decision that you can make is to be responsible for your own reality.
Exactly. Yeah. And to know that just because your doctor says Your diet has nothing to do with your disease. Just because your doctor says municipal tap water is great
Thank
for
you.
you, just because your doctor says you're going to live with this chronic disease for the rest of your life,
Not true. It's a
you
condition. I will tell you,
you
autoimmune is a condition. It is
it,
not, we can all restore our health back to its original well-being,
exactly.
our natural well-being.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like,
So how are you doing now?
Sorry?
How is your body now? It took you
Oh my
18
gosh.
months. Does this mean
My
bloating's
inflammation level,
gone?
I have a naturopath, and then sometimes use my doctor for, blood work, but my lab work is just over the top. There was like, oh my gosh, your inflammation level is like, whoa, everything. Yeah, my blood works great.
And you feel,
Oh, you should have saw me 10 years ago. I'm 57, and 10 years ago, I loved what you said earlier about how slow like I just slowly started getting inflammation.
yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, how did I not see that? It was like so slow around my skin and my eyes. And my body looked pretty good, but not my face. A lot of it shows especially as you get older, it will show up right in the corner of your eye by your nose.
Exactly.
That's indication when you have an inflammation. And that's why I'm all about sweating.
Yeah.
Like a supercharger bath with, food grade peroxide and magnesium, and even a box of baking soda and your favorite essential oil, lavender if you want to chill, peppermint if you want to fire it up. But the sauna and those regimens give you time to meditate.
Yes.
They give you time to go to YouTube and look for inspiration, or just have a conversation with yourself, or even an inquiry.
Yeah.
Like, what's my ideal life going to look like in 90 days?
Yeah.
What relationships need my attention? What does my creator have for me to rendezvous in the future? And just to be in those environments that allow you to elevate your self-care, because they become just a ritual. Remember we said earlier, environments, there's 3 days a week that I minimally do a supercharger bath. I'm in a sauna 5 days a week. I do Bikram yoga 2 days a week. So the constant sweating, and those of you that want to lose weight, like, you just naturally do it, because we sweat externally or we sweat internally. Externally means we have like a sauna. Internally means like cardio. And then Bikram yoga would be both, because you're in that, that 105-degree room, and then you're also doing the work, right?
No, and I love that you brought that up as well, that we need to sweat internally, sweat externally, because at the end of the day, that is what we need to be doing in all the aspects of our life. We need to be fueling ourselves internally, externally. We need to be cleaning up our environment internally, externally. And sometimes we only focus on one, but not the other, either the external environment or the internal. But we need to be doing both. I want to go back to something you just said that is so critical. It's when you say you have these supercharger baths and that it's a time to meditate. And I want people to take what Steve just said here, because it's critical. You can choose to use any activity in any part of your day as also the time that you meditate. There's this idea that we need to separate meditation from all these activities, and then that leaves you feeling like, I can't do it all.
Leverage.
Right. But let's just do it together. Like, my clients do coffee enemas. It's a really important part of their healing process. So important.
Baking soda too, right?
Yeah. But you just need to use that time. And when I tell them, use that time to learn, to grow, to be still, to meditate. Don't think of it like, I need to go do my colonic or coffee enema, or I have to take this bath, or I need to chop the vegetables and I don't have time. Use it as a time to heal and grow spiritually and mentally. Right? Combine the two. There's time for everything.
Leverage is such a gift.
Yes.
Yeah. And you when you start to think that way, it's a big part of my entrepreneur brand. You create environments that have multiple, how do I say it? we create environments that have multitudes of value.
Yeah.
So I would notice, for example, when I would entertain, I would have, and this is an example of it, like I'd be hanging out with my youth. I'd have my good friends there, my staff. I love music. And so I'd have music. And then, I was married for a while. And so hanging out with my wife as well. And then I loved to serve people and I would walk people out. So the multitudes of benefit gives you reasons why you might do your coffee enema and then listen to your favorite podcast, or crawl in bed and go to YouTube and listen to your favorite sermon, or read your favorite book, or a blog that you want to catch up on.
Yeah. Like anybody out there who's listening right now, if you're doing one thing, and I do believe in focused attention, but sometimes you're not going to be able to fit in a long form podcast like this and still fit in everything else. So why don't you do it and stretch at the same time? Or why don't you just listen to the podcast and use this time to breathe as well, or take notes and learn, or you could be chopping up a meal and listening to this podcast. So
true.
It's so true, right? You can do a couple things at once without feeling like you're overdoing it on the multitasking front, but you can do two things simultaneously and you can do them well. So if you think you can't stretch in your day, fit in stretching with listening to your podcast, and you are going to come out even better.
So true.
Even better.
And even meditation, people think that, elementary meditation is I'm going to take 15 minutes and get quiet. And I remember learning how to meditate. And when I would start to meditate, all my creativity would come. And these teachers were like, let that thought go. I couldn't let the thought go. And then I listened to Garrett White, who was like teaching these men how to meditate. And he's like, you know what? First thing in the morning often is a challenge. You're halfway asleep and you're falling asleep like you want to be awake. Start off, get up and move for 10 minutes, just get up and move. And then you're going to have maybe your phone or a laptop or some paper, and you're going to have these thoughts that are going to need to get out of your head. But what I really wanted to get to is moving meditation. If you ever studied Joe Dispenza, he's incredible. And he's done these case studies about why people heal. And like people that had a death sentence, they were going to die. And they had three commonalities. And the first one is they believed in a creator that loved them, that wanted them to live, or wanted them to have this experience of well-being. And second, that people that had known them for years said they became somebody new. They were almost unrecognizable. They knew them, but they weren't the same person.
Yeah.
That means know thyself.
Yeah.
Who are you? Honor thyself. And then third, they spent long periods of time losing track of time in something they love to do. Mm-hmm. If you love to rap, that can be your meditation.
Totally. Yeah.
You like to hike or walk your dog or do art. Like, do the thing that you love to do. Mm-hmm. And that's when you're really going to be tapping into your creator.
And isn't this so nice? Because this is releasing all judgment on, how to do these things. Everybody is looking externally for, well, how do I eat right? And how do I meditate right? And how do I journal the right way? Come on, you know what? Let's release the judgment. And why don't you sit with yourself and ask those questions? Like, what is it that I love to do? What allows the time to just like escape and flow? And then call that your meditation, call that your healing, call that your spiritual connection, call that your relationship building. Like, so many things can come out of that. But again, like, we've gone outwards to our external environment. Now it's time, people, we need to go inwards. We need to go inwards.
Even asking yourself, what might my highest excitement look like right now? The most powerful words, perspective words, are might, if, suppose, and could. Like, I'll sometimes want to lead a client into action, and I'll say, what might be the reason behind that? Or what would it look like if you gave yourself permission to just asking yourself, what's my highest excitement now? Or what might I do that would elevate my joy?
Yeah.
And then you're tapping into your creator, you're tapping into your own innate wisdom, and you're being guided. Know thyself. That's the best relationship you have with in your life, is your relationship you have with you.
Yeah.
Be curious with yourself. Give yourself permission to live your highest excitement more. And you'll start to notice, you'll be guided in this beautiful direction that we've been guided in.
Oh man, this is so perfect.
I'm having a blast.
And
it's
this
my favorite interview I've had. You rock.
Well, and you know what? If for everyone who is listening to this, we tapped into a lot. Like there is so much here in, Steve's journey of healing, of discovering, of, following the trend and then going, wait a minute, resulting in this autoimmune condition, which then he has to go, guess what? The answers have been around me all the time. My wife's already been doing this. And then being open to learning, then unlearning all these things. It's there's so many nuggets. And for people who feel like there was so much covered, and I think Steve, you'll agree, it's just like tap into the one thing that resonated with you the most and just start to play with that.
Love that.
Start to play with that. Like I can just, oh my God, it must be so much fun being coached by you on the entrepreneurial side, on the body temple side. I mean, it's all one and the same. And so I want to ask you this.
I want to be coached by you.
Yeah.
I'm having this amazing experience with you. That's what I'm going to do for 20 minutes after we're done, before my next coaching call. I'm going to go journal. You have such a gift in pulling out magic in people. I don't use that word very often, but that's what this is. It's a magical experience you have. And I wanted just to say earlier, I couldn't look at the camera. I was so glued to your magnificence, what you exude, the beauty that you exude. I see you as a purist. There's not a lot of purists in the world. It's a word that I don't use for very many people. And you are here doing Spirit's work. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. And I'm going to receive that because I've never been good at receiving. So this is a practice that I'm going to start practicing with you right now. So thank you. But of course, I have to say, I'm just holding up a mirror to you, my friend. This is, and I took a lot of notes too, where I was just like, this is brilliant and so many things. So I just have to say, it has just been so much fun being with you right now too. And everything you just said, really, it shines back to you. And I do have a couple more questions that I really just feel like we need to harness and just get into, is that you have a philanthropic movement as well, which I also so greatly appreciate. And it's why I think that's where your success comes from, because we have so many people who are navel gazing, so many people who are out there. It's just I'm going to do this work because there's money in this field of plant-based eating, or money in this field of supplements, or money in this field of, and very rarely, when I get the feeling that that's what the people are in for, I rarely ever invite them into the podcast, because I know it's just not going to resonate. They're not going to have these amazing gifts to give to my audience that you've been giving, because you're giving them from a place where I know your deepest desire is to heal the world, heal the planet.
It certainly is.
And I know, and I feel that. So tell us about the philanthropic side of everything that you do in your community.
Yeah. So, going back, I am to 18 when I had, my life was completely different. I moved, and I remember I had just kept telling God, I just kept hearing, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do this? And so I've always been kind of the driving force. And then Lynn is magic. Lynn is like, man, she's got the same gifts that you have. Like she understands the science and the reason. Her delivery is incredible. When you watch the Kickstart detox video, she is 60 years old, and she's probably, she does not like to talk about her age, but her skin, and she looks phenomenal. And I mean, she's looked phenomenal even when she had cancer. Like, you just totally transformed. But I heard like God say, are you going to do this or not? Like, I'm going to go take this to somebody else. You're going to do it or not? And I remember just saying, yes, I am. I'm in this new home. I'm meditating, and I heard this voice so loud. And so we started just helping people. And then on May 1st, we created an online community in Facebook called Body Temple. And you'll notice that when you opt in for the Kickstart Detox program, which is completely free, you'll get an email and you'll get a text. But more importantly, we are old school. You're going to hear from a Body Temple coach, and they're going to reach out and they're going to send you a text or an email. Easier if you have a text, and they're going to welcome you to Body Temple. And they're going to say, if you have any questions about the Kickstart or you want any help, reach out and we're going to help you. But our online community, we have Facebook Lives. We have a whole resource library in the file section. The activity there is amazing. I mean, from intermittent fasting to mindset to tips to recipes and it's a really active community. And we actually even started off with our 14-day body reset, which is, when you opt in, when you get into the community, they'll ask you a few questions, and then you realize that the announcements just take you down the journey. So you can see exactly what we have available. And our customer care team, big heart. So we are all about connecting with people and helping people.
That's amazing. And I know running a business, it takes a lot of time to take your knowledge and put it into content and get it out to the community. And to do that for free is like, I know how much it costs to do that. It takes time, it takes money, it takes resources to be able to do that well. And to be able to give that for free is incredible, because we have so many people that are charging, hundreds of dollars for not like zero information. And you're giving away the answers, which is phenomenal. And I know
25 million people unemployed during COVID, just in America, right? Like, and I mean, I live in a very astute area, and I drive by homeless all the time, and I'm praying, and nothing feels better than showing up to help people, right?
Yeah. And giving that away for free. So then on the other side of that, I know you have a company because you created, so you have all of these free resources, but then of course you have to feed yourself, right? Like, you have a company, you have coaching, and there's, people can pay for those services as well, but they can also, like, I always, when I hear people say that I don't have enough money to put towards that, I'm just like, you know what? There's so many free resources, and you're an example of somebody who's giving away the answers. You just got to do the work and read it, get involved, show up in the community. But then, yes, there is the additional side where you can pay for the additional coaching. But then also, what I love is you've created a line of supplements that are super clean. So I just want people to understand, we're in a world of pyramid schemes. We're in a world of crappy supplements, but because you entered it from the space of knowing, you could create supplements that have so many chemicals, but you healed from being able to have access to nutrients that didn't have chemicals. That was part of your healing process. So tell us about your supplement line.
Yes. So basically, we're all about gut health and pumping up the immune system. So our Purify Gut Detox formula can be a 15-day gut detox, or it's maintenance, completely maintenance. And I just chose not to get vaccinated. and I've been around tons of people with COVID. I've been in public places with, I think it's an individual decision. Sometimes people are having to make that because of their career, whatever. It just was something that I chose not to do. And I know my immune system is just completely pumped up with what I do on the front end and what I do on the back end. And our probiotic, pre-probiotic over the top, and the digestive enzymes, incredible. So we have a chemical-free product line as well. And God, I wanted to circle back with what you said earlier. Yes, we even have a program called Take Charge of Your Health, Body, and Mindset customized coaching package. And it's so inexpensive. And as a member, that just means they're in our community. They get $300 off. It's like a couple $100. And what you end up with is this ideal wellness plan. So the conversation that Nikki and I have had kind of starts off that way with the client. And then we get this structured plan that shows up from their ideal reasons why they want health to ideal meal plan, beverage plan, shopping list, a complete process. It's just magical. And that's a program that we have as well. So I will be introduced to you.
That's amazing.
Start off with Kickstart, have some fun, enjoy that program. That's completely complimentary.
Awesome. We're going to put that into the show notes for sure.
BodyTempleKickstart.com.
Woo! What is it again? Say it again.
BodyTempleKickstart.com.
Okay, awesome.
So the company's name is Body Temple, and then Kickstart is like,
how you do it. And these Kickstart programs are so important because it takes you through developing habits. We know that most people need at least 21 days to 30 days to really get their habits in place. This gets you on that path. I love that it's 15 days because people can actually wrap their head around that. They're like, I can do 15 days. And so sometimes having these shorter programs, but also what I love about what you teach is that you're teaching the lifestyle. It doesn't end at day 15. Actually, it's getting you started so you continue this for the rest of your life, right?
There. Because that's exactly what it is. Like, you'll realize that manual will be a template for the rest of your life. Like, it's that well done. And even in that, like, we thought about, I've just always been about the end user. My mother taught me that. My mother is just incredible. And she's like, it's always about looking at life through the end user. I have 5 life principles I live by. And one is the value we offer is always determined by the other person. And if you got a problem with your kid, it's like, are you looking through your child's lens, or your spouse, or my ability to look through your lens? So, the reason it took so long is it was constantly going back and meditating and looking for guidance. And so what we thought about is we had probably 3 different kinds of people that would be going through this. And those that just want to stretch, they want a basic. So we have like a basic 15-day program. And then the ones that want more progress, we have a progressive 15-day Kickstart program. And then we have the ideal, which is the ones that either want to really rev up their game, or they have to live a life that's narrow right now because they are ill and they want to make those changes. Well, that's why we launched it right before Thanksgiving, going into this holiday saying, oh, I can do things completely different. I could actually go to a holiday party and have 1 glass of wine, or I could actually only eat produce at this holiday party, whatever, to step into it and not get to January and like, oh my gosh, I gained 10 pounds. I don't feel good. Walk into it with intention. Modeling is the greatest gift we give others.
Modeling is, and I do love what you just mentioned there too, just before we wrap up. And it's something that another guy, Peter Katz, who we just interviewed, he said too, especially around the holidays, because we're going to be going into Christmas next. And he's like, why do we like gather our loved ones around only to feed them the food that's going to kill them?
Right.
Isn't that like,
I remember those days of going to Costco, my entrepreneur days, like I can't believe the stuff that I would feed people. I've actually
I did
thought
it
of
too.
that. I don't
We all
even
did
go
it.
anymore. I can't go. I won't go.
No. Exactly. So we're just going to leave people with that. My Body Temple, kickstart.com, mybodytemple.com, Steve Wiltshire. Steve, it has been amazing. This podcast has been
I
packed
adore
with
you.
so much. I just have to thank you for your time, for being so generous and sharing your knowledge with our audience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Many blessings.
And there you have it, folks, the wonderful Steve Wiltshire. So head over to his website. All of the links are in the show notes below. Know that so much of everything that he mentioned, actually everything he mentioned, is free to you through his Body Temple Kickstart program. And start learning today. And you know what I always say at the end of these shows, please, if anything in this podcast touched you, then, and also made you think of somebody else that can benefit from it, go ahead and hit share. It's just a little up arrow in the podcast. And so share this podcast with other people, because the way this world is going to hear is through hearing stories from people who've done the work before. So go ahead and share that, because you can change and even save someone's life simply by passing this podcast along. So until our next show, eat well, do well, and thanks for being here, everyone.